I've got a customer question here that it's using multiple time frames here, and since there's a lot of new people that have joined us in the last couple of months, I thought I'd kind of show you, this is something fairly simple, and so this will be kind of not so much the technicals, of how you set up this condition, but just kind of like the whole process of how do you work with another time frame, like what's a good process, some good practices, building your solvers that are going to be working on a secondary time frame and primarily a higher time frame. So this document here came in from a customer, and so as you can see, let me open this up here a little bit. Right, so this is today's theme, and when you look at this, I have it really zoomed in. So when you look at this, to me this looks like a next-gen type of chart system here, and so the question, is about using some entries and some exits at different points with different indicators. And if I scroll down here, these indicators, are this BB MACD, and unfortunately my cursor really disappears when it's inside this PDF, so you can't see my mouse. So you can see it has the BB MACD and this special momentum indicator. And so as we look at the text, right, we can see it's dealing with the MACD and this TTM momentum indicator. And so he's asking about different entries. So we're going to build an entry template and then different exit points. And so we're going to build an exit logic template. And then we're wanting these entries and exits on a different time frame. And so then I'll show you how to easily move your solvers from one chart to another chart, or from one time frame to another time frame. All right, let me adjust this back again. And put this over in the corner. So I have on here, so what I've prepared so that I can build this system is two charts, the 5-1 chart and the 12-3 chart, which this being a next-gen system, this could be RJ's Spectrum or the Pro Renko or even the Unirenko bars are capable of doing this. Even there's also a couple other bar types out there. The Ultimate Logic bar type, right, can be set up so that your bars look like this as well. Right, so you can see I have the 5-1 on the chart on the right and the 12-3 on the chart on the left here. And I do have the BB MACD on my chart, and I don't have the TTM momentum, so I'm just using the regular momentum. So I do prefer to try and use standard NinjaTrader indicators in these workshops, so that way if people ask for the BloodHound template file, it's a little easier for people to have the indicators that are used in the BloodHound file. So for any of you that don't have the BB MACD, this is available up on Big Mics. I know that, and there's a good chance that it's also available up on NinjaTrader's download section of their support forum as well. So the way I'm going to approach this is, we start off by saying that we want to plot on the 5-1 chart the following conditions on or from the 12-3 chart. So the 5-1 chart is going to be our default chart, and so I'm going to build all these conditions on our default chart and then move them, and then move the solvers onto the 12-3 chart. Move them onto the 12-3 chart. So I have BloodHound on my chart already. I'm already good to go. And I guess just for the benefit of anyone new on here, simply I'm opening up NinjaTrader's indicator window, and if I scroll down to the S's, right, you'll see all these SI indicators. So those are shark indicators. And then you can see BloodHound, and I just added BloodHound down here onto the chart. And let's see. So for now, I'm gonna pretty much, I can pretty much ignore my 12-3 chart. So we'll use that later on for a reference. So let me open up the BloodHound indicator. BloodHound interface, sorry. And so our first condition is we want to go long when the MACD, and when he says MACD, he's referring to our BB MACD, crosses above the upper band, and then there's a short condition when the MACD crosses below the lower band. So that is simply a crossover condition, right? So these conditions are going to be very simple to build. So the other kind of half of the reason why I'm showing this is just kind of the process, the the concept and the good working habits, I guess, or method for working with multiple time frames here. So I'll shrink this down, and we're dealing with the BB MACD here. So we want a long signal, right, when we cross above the upper band, and a short signal when we cross below the lower band. So I'm just going to build these conditions on our default time frame here, right, which is the 5-1. So I'm going to build them under this default time frame. And let's see, since I'm working with exit templates and entry templates, I'm going to just go ahead and jump onto the logic tab and just start working on the logic board here. So let's call this the entry, and I'll make another logic template, and this will be the exits. Right. So now I have two logic templates here, and I'm kind of deciding to myself, do I want to make two separate entries and two separate exit templates, one entry and exit logic template for the MACD, and a separate entry and exit logic for the momentum indicator? No, I don't think I will. I think I'll put them all in the same entry logic here. All right. So we'll start with the MACD crossing those bands. So we're going to use the crossover. Let me connect that in here. And so we're just looking for the MACD line to cross the upper band and lower band. So in indicator A, I'll put the MACD BB line. So there's my indicator, the BB MACD. And so we're looking for the MACD line to cross the upper and the lower band. So this is already set up correctly. And then in indicator B needs to be the bands that we're crossing. So what I'm doing is I can double click on the indicator I want to use, or I could do a single click right on the ATR and then click to add new, either way. All right, and so now we need to change our plots that we're going to use for long and short signals. Right, so we want a long signal when we cross the upper band, and we want a short signal when we cross the lower band. And always, and don't forget that if you're using custom parameter settings for your indicator, don't forget to go in and change the parameter so that all these values match what's on the chart. So for these workshops, I just typically use just whatever the defaults are, so I don't have to take the time to go in and edit these. But but I do want to make sure that whatever settings your BB MACD has on the chart, you have to make sure that those settings are also set the same in BloodHound's indicator selector. So that would go for both, indicator A in here. You'd have to change your parameters to match what's on the chart as well as what's down here. All right, so if we look at our chart, we can see we have some correct signals now. So there's our long, and of course another short. So great. All right, let's take a look at the next step here. So then our exit from long or short when the MACD enters inside the band. So when it enters inside the band. All right, so this is our simple entry. So next we're going to work on that exit. And so I will just grab another crossover indicator. All right, so let me just kind of explain what I'm doing here. So when I'm working on the logic tab, right, all of these solvers that we see here, these are going to add new solvers to the system. And we can see that I have two existing solver nodes here that are available here. And since half of this theme is about good practices, I'm already violating that, so I should go back and rename this solver. I should give this solver a name. So I should call this the BB MACD crossing over the bands. And let's see, how about if I call it the entry? So I'm going to just copy that name and now switch back over to the exit logic, and this crossover is essentially going to be the same, but it will be our exit condition there. All right, so let me go set up our indicators correctly. So once again, we're looking for the BB MACD line to cross into the middle of our bands. So indicator B needs to be our bands again. However, this time, since it's an exit logic, when our BB line is above the upper band, like how we see the red dots here when it's above, right? We're in a long position, and so when it crosses inside the bands, we want a short signal to exit that long condition. So if we have an open long position, we want a short signal to exit that long position. So when we cross the upper band, we want to get a short condition, and therefore when we cross the lower band, we want a long signal. All right, so there we go. And so like right here, if we look at this guy, right, we were in a short condition, right? So we had a short trade on, and then as soon as it crossed above the lower band inside, then we have that long exit signal to exit that short position, right? And if we take a look over here, right, so we crossed above the upper, which put us into that long position, and then as soon as we cross below inside the bands, then we have a short signal that will exit the long position. So, right, so this the MACD conditions are pretty simple. We're already done with those. So let's move on and build the momentum. Let me slide that up a little bit. So we'll move on and build the momentum conditions. All right, so our entries are long when the momentum crosses above the zero line of a prefixed amount. So I don't know what that prefixed amount is, but we'll make something up, I guess. So once again, we can do that with a crossover solver. So let me just add another crossover solver down here. And this time I'll remember to change the name first. So I'll just call this the mom. And I should make sure that I label it as the entry. All right, so I'm just going to connect that in there. And let me adjust my chart. So we want some kind of prefixed threshold value. So really what he's saying is that when the momentum crosses above the zero line at a kind of prefixed threshold value, then that's when we want a long signal, and the opposite for the short signal. Now I could use the threshold solver to do this as well. However, the crossover solver gives us a nice clean single signal. So let's this is going to be our long entry, and I'll show you why in just a moment. So let's switch this. So indicator A is going to be our momentum plot, and I believe let's see, momentum on a 14 period. Yeah. So most likely I'm just using the default period here. Yep, I'm using the 14 period. Good. All right. and then there's only one plot here to select from, so we're okay there. Okay, so next we're looking for the momentum to cross that predefined level. So let me put some lines on here, I guess, to how about if we do, we'll just make it simple, 0.1. All right, and we'll just copy and paste that. And we'll set that one up at -0.1. All right, so we'll look for the momentum indicator to cross this 0.1 and cross below the -0.1. And that will be our prefixed amount. So with the crossover solver, you know, if we're looking to cross essentially what's a threshold value, a threshold level, then what we're going to do is we're going to set the type to an absolute value or a fixed value, and I'm just going to put 0.1 on there. So that's our fixed value on this indicator is 0.1. And there we go. So we can see as soon as the momentum crosses above the 0.1, we're getting a long signal for the long entry, but we can also see we're getting a short signal here, and we don't want to go short when it crosses below the 0.1. We want to go short when the momentum crosses below 0 and a prefixed amount. So we only want a short signal when the momentum right here crosses below our -0.1. So the way we can do that is we will adjust the evaluate, and we'll set this one to longs only. So that's why I changed the name to our long entry. So now as we look at this, here we go. So now we have our long entries. And so then next, I need to create the short entries. So let me drop another crossover solver down here. I'm going to connect that up and change the name. All right, so our momentum short entry. So I will go ahead and set the evaluate to short, change our indicator to the momentum. Right, I don't have to change my plots, there's only one. All right, so now I need to set my threshold level here. So I'm looking to cross -0.1. And there is our short entries. Now this momentum indicator does not behave the same as this TTM momentum. So some of this looks a little crazy here. And so the next issue is you can see that, well, gosh, we can only have either the longs or the shorts connected at the same time. So we need to take these two solvers and join them together. So we'll use an OR node to join them together, and the OR node allows both signals, both solver signals, to pass right through it, and it essentially kind of joins two solvers together into one output, or into one leader. So now when we look on the chart, right, there is our short entry, another short entry, and then a long entry, right, our long entries. So there's our entries are done for the momentum. So next, oops, let me scroll back down here. So next we need to work on the exits for the momentum. So exit from long short when the momentum hits the zero line. All right, so that one's going to be a little easier. So let's switch back over to our exit template. And I will add another crossover solver. And I will name this correctly. Our momentum exits. And since we're crossing the zero line to exit both long and short positions, we're going to need both of the short and long signals for this one. And I need to switch indicator B over to the absolute value of 0. So 0 would be the zero line on our indicator. Right, so we want to exit from the long and short when the momentum hits the zero line. So we'll leave this at 0. And I need to connect this solver up so we're looking at the right signals. And there we go. So every time we cross that zero line, or even if the indicator just touches the zero line, actually here, so here's another condition. So, you know, this just says when it hits the zero line. You know, well, in programming, you know, hit is not a valid term. You know, when you're building logic conditions. So I'm going to assume that hits, this subjective word hits means equal to as well. So right now we're actually waiting for the momentum indicator to cross the zero line, which means it has to exceed it, which means when it's equal to the zero line, it's not going to count as a crossing. But I can change this to true, and so now you can see it looks like the momentum indicator, where we don't actually see a plot right here, it looks like it's because the momentum equals the zero line. So I'm going to assume that when the momentum does equal the zero line, that's what hits means. So you know, just something good to note to yourself when you're asking me questions. You know, subjective words like that can make a huge difference in building the solver. So try not to use, you know, subjective words like that. You know, try to use words like greater than, equal, you know, or more, or equal, you know, whatever the case may be. So that does it for our exit signals. It was just that simple. We just had to look for the momentum plot to cross the zero line, and we're done for that. And let's see. So next, what I'll do, yeah. So next, what I'll do, we'll see what happens here. So I'm going to join both of these exit signals together with an OR node. So that way I get both of the exit signals coming in. All right, so here's all of our exit signals from both the momentum and the MACD. And then we go into the entry logic. So we're in the entry logic, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I will join the MACD entry signals with the, how about if I name this solver the momentum entries. And I know that's bad spelling, but I like to keep the name short. And so this will be the MACD and momentum signals. All right, so if we look at the chart, and so here's all of our entry signals. So if that, if you want these entry signals on separate logic templates, then that's pretty simple enough to do. What I can do is I can just make a copy. Let's see, how about if I name this first? I'll call this all entries. All right, so I can rename my logic templates on the fly, and I'll call this all exits. So I will go back to my entry. So if I wanted to break my entries up into separate logic templates, I can just copy this one. All right, so I've got a copy here. So I'll just erase the word copy, and we'll call this the BB MACD entry. All right, and then I can just go in here and delete what I don't want. Let's connect that up, and there we go. I just, oops, looks like I got an extra letter in there. There we go. So now you can see I have all the entry logic template, and I have the BB MACD entry logic template, and I'll go back to this, the all entries, and I will copy it again, and as you probably have guessed, we'll make this the momentum entry only. So let me get rid of the BB solver, and there we go. So now you can see I have 3 separate entry logics now, however you want to use this. So, but I'll just stick with the all entries just to keep this kind of simple. All right, so I'm done building the conditions. And as you know, I built all of my conditions on the default time frame, right? They're all on the default time frame, which is our 5-1, which let's go back to the original question. So so we want to plot on the 5-1 chart the following conditions from the 12-3 chart. So our next step is to move all of these solvers onto the 12-3 chart. So the next step is to add our 12-3 chart to the system. So there's our secondary time frame, and I just need to change it over to the 12-3 chart. So there's our Pro Renko, and it is a 12 body size and a 3 tick. And I am using the sync bars daily. I turn it on. I guess if you're a next gen customer, John likes to leave this off because it gives a smoother when it gives a smoother transition from midnight. So what that parameter does, I know I'm getting a little off track here, but let me see if I could find a midnight time. There we go. let me widen this up a little bit. Right, so we can see midnight is marked by the orange dashed line, and so the synchronize daily bars, what that does is at midnight, whatever your time zone is, it's actually at midnight at the exchange. So we can see on my chart it actually happens at 10 o'clock at night, which is midnight in New York. What it does is it just closes the bar and then it starts a new bar. So every day a new bar is started at the exact same time. And so what that does is when you have multiple charts open, so if I had other 5-1 charts open that I was looking at different whatever, then what that does is when you start a new bar at midnight, what that does is it synchronizes your low points and high points here. That's what the purpose of this does. So this is something new to NinjaTrader 7. NinjaTrader 6 did not have this feature on their bar types. So simply turning the synchronize daily bars on, what it does is it synchronizes the high and low points of the bar type. All right, so anyways, I'll get back on track here. So I have my 12-3 chart, and since I added a secondary time frame, NinjaTrader needs to load that data up. And the only way we can get NinjaTrader to load that data up is we can see down here there's this message that we have to press F5 to update BloodHound. Or really what we're doing is we're updating the chart data. And so we're getting NinjaTrader to build that 12-3, getting NinjaTrader to build that 12-3 chart for us. And yeah, you know what? I just jumped right into things and I did not name my logic template. So let me give this logic template a name. All right, so we're on 12-6. So there's only 18 days of shopping left. All right, so we'll save that. Okay, so now NinjaTrader loaded up the 12-3 bars inside our 5-1 chart. And let's bring up the interface again. All right, now that I have this chart on here, all I need to do now is simply move my solvers from the default time frame onto the 12-3 chart. So I can just use this up and down button. I'm just selecting the solver, moving it down, select the solver, and move it down. And now you can see all my solvers are now operating on the other time frame here. And that's simply all that was needed. And let's see, I'm going to have all entries selected. Good. And let me actually let's look at something a little simpler. Let's just look at the BB MACD entries. So let's close that up. And so I have my global crosshairs turned on, right? So you can see my crosshair is on the 12-3 chart on the left, right? And you can see my crosshair moving across on the right chart there, since I have global crosshairs turned on. So you can see that right here, Let me expand this a little bit there. So right here is our long condition. And there's our, so on the right chart, you can see there's our long entry signals. And let's move over here and let's take a look at the exit. And so I'll mark the exit with that red triangle. But what I have to do is switch this over to the, let's see, all exits. Right, so there we go. So I have my crosshair on the 12.3 chart at the exit bar, and we can see on the 5.1 chart that we're getting a short signal. That short signal is for exiting, right, our long position here. So that was it. All right, so the system is built. So kind of what I was showing you is that, you know, when you're building your conditions, it's easier to build it on the default time frame. So that way you can see the signals are showing up correctly, you know, the way you are wanting them to, because it's much easier to see them working correctly visually on the default time frame. And then when you're done getting all your solvers set up, then you can add your secondary chart and then just move your solvers onto it. And that way you'll know they're working correctly. All right, so I will pause here, and I see a bunch of questions came in. So and let's see, Dan had to leave, but he was asking about limit orders. And so, yes, you know, that's a part of what Jeremy's working on, is getting the limit orders as well, built into Falcon. All right, so Scott is asking, as a new user, I have a question. Well, let me see if this question pertains to what we're working on here. I'll try and get those questions out of the way first, and then move on to other questions. Okay, so yeah, so Scott's question isn't about the system, but it does kind of pertain to this, since we're working with logic templates. Let's see, Scott is asking, do you have available some templates we can work with? If so, are they templates classified as to whether they work with standard, professional, or ultimate? So Scott has professional. All right, so Scott, the way you can determine that, well, first of all, Scott, if you download one of these workshop logic templates, and if the logic, or I should say, if the BloodHound file has components in it from the ultimate version, so in other words, if I used one of these function nodes, then only the ultimate version could open up this logic template. But since I'm not using any function nodes, and I'm not using any of these programmer nodes, so these programmer nodes are part of the ultimate version as well. But Scott, your professional version does include the logic nodes, because the professional version also includes, right, the logic tab. So the logic tab is essentially there so that you can use these logic nodes. So none of these templates, yeah, let's see, none of these templates use any function nodes. They're all pretty simple. So this template you can open with the professional version. Now, if I didn't accidentally leave a function node in here, then you wouldn't be able to open it. but BloodHound would give you a warning message, saying that this BloodHound file is can only be opened by the ultimate version. But since there's no function nodes in here, Scott, you will be able to open this. And so just as to kind of go further into this, if you do, I don't always put these BloodHound files up on the website, and I do that on purpose. I'd rather you either build the system with me while we're doing the workshop live, or if you go back and watch the recording, then I'd rather you build all these solvers yourself. That way you get the practice of working with BloodHound. Versus if I just hand you this, then you don't get any of the practice of going through and working with the solvers and stuff like that. All right, so we typically learn much quicker if we are actually doing the work. If we're being the doer, we learn things much quicker versus if someone just hands us something and then we muck around with it. I know a lot of people like to start with something that's already kind of pre-built and making fine-tune adjustments. That's kind of how I taught myself to program, back when I was a wee kid. So I understand that, but since you do have the recordings available to you, you can go back and build this yourself pretty simply, pretty easily. But if you do absolutely need to have any of these workshop BloodHound files, all you have to do is to send me a request, to send me an email, at support@sharkindicators.com, and just ask me, can you give me the BloodHound file? And I also have the chart files too, so I always save a chart template file. So I can give you the chart template file that'll load up the indicators for you. So just send me an email and just let me know what the date is of the video. So that's how I can find it. If you tell me what the date is of the video, then I can email you, any of the BloodHound files from any of the workshops. So, well, maybe some of the older ones from last year I may not have anymore, but I definitely have all the newer ones going back probably 9 months or so. All right, so let me kind of scan through these questions here. So let's see. Celso asked a good question. So I figured some of you guys would pick up on this. So Celso is asking, why do I have 2 OR nodes here? So if you kind of understand logic math, you'd know that 2 OR nodes aren't necessary. It can all be done with 1 OR node. So I could just take this, connect it in there, and I would get the exact same results. This is not necessary. I did this just to kind of help visually understand what's going on. So that's why I broke it into 2, because visually, for someone who's kind of new to logic, visually seeing 2 separate OR nodes kind of helps you visually comprehend what is going on at first. If I just, like with an AND node or an OR node, if I just start plugging them all in the same node, for new people that are new to logic, it's a little tough to understand. So that's why I will use multiple OR nodes or multiple AND nodes to kind of explain the flow. So it kind of helps explain the flow of the logic. So that's why I broke it into 2 OR nodes. But you are correct. I figured that those who know or know logic math, they would know that hey, this could be done with this 1 OR node. Okay. All right, so let me get back to some questions here. So let's see, Ken, I'll get to your question in just a moment. Oh, thanks. Also, is very correct. He told me I used the wrong name here. So this is December, not November. So I've put the wrong name in there, so I will just use the change button. And so you notice that this change button, it brings up the save as dialog, so that's really what it's doing. This change button is just doing a save as. So let me go down here and put the correct date on there. Great. All right, thanks for catching that. And looks like a couple other people caught that. Bunch of you caught that. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a huge difference from being the presenter, where you're always trying to kind of think ahead to keep things moving, versus being the participant, where you have far more time. It seems like time slows down when you're the participant and you're watching. You can always catch the presenter's mistakes. All right. Let's see. So Celso is asking, when will this recording be available? So as I said earlier, I still need to get Daniel's workshop from 2 weeks ago finished. So once I get that finished, then I'll start working on this one. So, you know, with some luck, I'll get it done this weekend. You know, it just kind of depends on how long it takes me to get Daniel's volume divergence done. So hopefully this weekend. All right, so let me get back. All right, so I'm kind of all right, so I'll get back to some of these other questions that don't pertain to today's theme. All right, so Ken is asking, can this be connected to Market Analyzer? Yes, Ken. There is a workshop, a couple of workshops, where I showed how to use the Market Analyzer with, with BloodHound. Let's see, so all right, so you know what, let me try and take care of Ken and Stephen's question with a kind of general answer of, you know, how can you find some of the older workshops? What's a good way to find some of the older workshops? So let's minimize that, and I'll minimize that, and I'm going to open up my web browser, and let's see, I'm going to go to YouTube, and if I type in, let's see, I type in shark indicators, and let's see, so this one is on Trading Pub's channel. So I'm trying to find our channel. There we go. So our channel has Jeremy's name on it. So if I just, so you could also do a search up here, you know, for Jeremy Tang, right? So I clicked on our channel here, and you actually don't even have to go to our channel, but if you do, right, you can kind of cruise through all the videos on here. But really, the goal that I wanted to show you is if you search for these keywords, right, BloodHound, and then you'll see the BloodHound gang comes up a lot, so you can eliminate those results by typing in workshop. So if you type in BloodHound workshop, And then let's take a look for the market analyzer and see what pops up. Here we go, BloodHound workshop using market analyzer, and some Q&A. So if we take a look at this one and take a look at this description here, right? So in this workshop, we were asked to show how to use BloodHound with the market analyzer. All right, so there you go, Ken. And also for Stephen, for Stephen, since you're wanting to look for Raven videos so that you can learn how to use the ATM, if I type in Raven in there, and so now you'll see all of these workshops that come up with Raven referenced. Yeah, so here's a neat workshop I did 5 months ago. So this workshop had a whole bunch of different types of exit strategies to use with Raven. Let's see. All right, so this one done 10 months ago. The Raven trading strategy and the new 1.1 function nodes. So Stephen, this workshop will show you how to use ATMs with Raven. So this workshop kind of covers Raven a little more in depth because we had made some changes to Raven back then. And oh yeah, so here's a newer one, 5 months ago with Raven. So this one should also show you how to use an ATM with Raven. All right, and Andrew has a question. Can you hide the BloodHound Ultimate that shows up on the chart? Can you hide the BloodHound Ultimate that shows up on the chart? Let's see. So, Andrew, I'm assuming you're talking about the name that shows up, the name of the indicator, right, that shows up on the sub panel here. I'm assuming this is what you're talking about. If you could just give me a yes or a no if this is what you're talking about, if you're wanting to hide this name right here. So that's a yes. Okay. All right. So this is really a NinjaTrader function. So I'm going to go into the indicators list, and what you do is you clear out the label, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jeremy disabled that. So like with the BBMACD, if I clear out that label, leave it blank, all right, yep, there you go. So we can see the BB label is not showing, and the BloodHound label is not showing as well. Let's see, not the name but the space. No, you can't actually change the name, Andrew. You can only, well, let's see here. Like, what if I go DBB? Let's see what happens. Yeah, so you can see that if I have anything in this label, basically the a different name, how do I describe this, a predefined name shows up. So with BloodHound, I can just type in SI, and and so the full name of the indicator shows up. So as you can see, because BloodHound is kind of a unique indicator, Jeremy has instructed NinjaTrader to provide a unique name down here, right? So it's showing the name of the BloodHound file and the name of the logic template that's on. So no, you can't change the name. You can just turn it off. So Andrew says he's trying to create more space for his charts. More space. Space in what manner? So, well, I guess Andrew, you can just either turn the name off or leave it like that. Jim is saying he wants to remove the panel. I don't think you can. Not that I know of. Let's see. Dan is saying my name will not turn off. Let's see. Well, so yeah, you know what you can do is I guess if you're trying to create more space on your chart, you could do that. You know, you can just shrink it down. You know, as you can do within all charts. Yeah, you know, sometimes it's weird. I'm not sure what causes this. This really gets into technical questions for NinjaTrader, you know, because it deals with manipulating the chart. But you know, as you can see, BloodHound is almost all but shrunk and disappeared. But typically, these subpanels can only be shrunk so much. So I haven't really gotten into this in detail. So I would suggest, Andrew, if you're wanting to shrink it down like this and for some reason your chart's not allowing you to, you know, ask NinjaTrader about that. Why you can sometimes and why you can't. I'm not sure. I haven't bothered looking into that. So Jim is saying that in the next gen class they do it all the time. They just shrink down the BloodHound. I'm assuming he's saying that they shrink down the BloodHound subpanel all the time. Let's see. Andrew is asking, how do you get the entry arrows to paint on the chart? Andrew, I'm not sure what you mean by entry arrows. BloodHound doesn't use entry arrows. It uses the racing stripes. So if you're talking about these, I drew those on here, right? I'm using this toolbar shortcut indicator, and all right, this is a great little toolbar, so I can put little objects on my chart, so I can mark things out. So this is a great tool when you're building your BloodHound system, so that you can mark points on your chart. And once again, this toolbar on the side here is called toolbar shortcut. Last I checked, you could find this on NinjaTrader's website and on Big Mike's. And so Ken is asking, you know, it's interesting, after our NinjaTrader webinar, we've been asked quite a bit if BloodHound can be put in Excel format. So, well, the short answer, or the answer is no. BloodHound doesn't have an Excel export functionality. That kind of defeats the purpose of BloodHound. You know, BloodHound is kind of designed to make things a lot simpler, so you don't have to do code work. So you can quickly see your results on the chart. You know, so exporting all that data to Excel, to me, kind of goes against the concept of what BloodHound is about. So no, there is no Excel export functionality. However, I know there are. If you can do it if you know how to do some coding, your own coding, right? I know there's indicators out there, or they could be strategies that you can manipulate, and you can export indicator data out into a Excel text format, And so if you know how to do your own coding, you could also include BloodHound, in that custom indicator. So I know I've seen one on Big Mics, and I believe there's also one on NinjaTrader's download website. So I don't remember if it was written as an indicator or as a strategy, but it's probably going to be, you'll probably find it in the miscellaneous download section of both NinjaTrader and Big Mics. Right, some code that will export your indicator data to a CSV file. All right, so last question for today, and I'll wrap this up. Oh, all right. Thank you, Steve. That was not a question. Since that wasn't a question, I'll give Al here the last question. Just pop that in here. So it sounds like Al's making a comment about hiding BloodHound. So I think you can hide a panel by first making all the plots transparent in color, then moving the indicator to another panel and set scale justification to the other side of your chart. It will not show up. Yep, that probably works. So what Al is saying is, right, so I just double clicked on BloodHound's output, right, and it brought up my indicator window. So what Al is suggesting is that you could go in here and, yeah, you know what the problem with that, Al, is if you change all the plots to transparent, you won't see BloodHound signals anymore. So maybe that's not such a good idea. If BloodHound's output is transparent, then you're not going to get any, you're not going to see anything. So maybe that's not such a good idea. All right, well, thanks for trying, Al. Appreciate it. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap this up, and you guys have a good weekend, and hope you all are enjoying the holidays with your warm mocha latte, whatever, Starbucks coffees when it's cold out there, and hot chocolates and all that good stuff that we get this time of year. And I will see you guys next week.